Hi, my name's Jeff O'Connor, and today I'm going to take you through an Actifio 10C tech tip on the new Mount and Migrate feature we've brought to the product. So what we're going to do today here is mount a large SQL database we've got running in our environment for test and dev or potentially BCP recovery requirements. I'm going to select an image from the snapshot pool and mount it to a new target SQL server. I'm going to give that a friendly label so that I know the purpose of this particular job. I can also elect to roll the transaction logs forwards or backwards, but I'm very interested in having the latest recovery point that I can. I'm going to give this database, though, a new name in an existing SQL instance where some other databases live. So this database is called BigDB Recover. In addition to that, I'm going to enter my username password that has rights to the target server there on Sidwin SQL 2. So we're submitting that job. So we'll just let that job complete here. You can see that the Actifio disks get mounted in. This process takes just a couple of minutes, as you can see, about 1 minute 46. For that SQL database to be created. If we refresh SQL Management Studio, we can see BigDB Recover now exists. And if we go to the Files option, we can see there it's about 1.1 terabytes in size, running off the F and Y drive, which are Actifio mounted disks coming off the Actifio Sky appliance in this case. Now we have a large database available and the business can commence using it. But we need to complete the actual recovery of the SQL files from the Actifio mount point to the local file system. And that's the next stage of the Mount and Migrate process, where we initiate the restore process of those files to the local disk. This, you can set a frequency between 1 hour and 24 hours, where we continue to repeat the pattern of restoring the delta changes that are being written to the Actifio mounted database and restoring those to the local file system, allowing you to minimize the cutover time when you convert from the Actifio mounted copy to the local file system copy. Now, what we need to do here is select the target volumes that we're going to use for the restore, and we're going to log into the source SQL server to see what volumes it runs the particular database on that we are restoring. And we can see here that this uses the disk volumes of F for data and E for logs. And so with our restored copy, you want to pick a drive or a folder for where you want the data file, and also a drive or a volume where you want the log volumes. So we're going to select the G drive for the data files and the H drive for the log files. So now we're going to submit that job, and this is going to kick off the initial restore of the database files to the local file system. That's going to take a little while. So that initial job has now completed, and we can see that that took about 1 hour and 27 minutes to complete. And in addition to that, there's a number of incremental jobs which ran every 2 hours, where any new delta changes that have been written to the mounted database are updated to the local copy in preparation for the final cutover to the local disk copy. But we're also going to emulate here some changes being made to this mounted database to show you that those changes are going to be persistent post the migration task. So here I'm just updating John Battle and Kirk Ivory as the first 2 records in the database under the ERP table. So we've committed those to the database, and we'll look to make sure that they exist after we've performed the final migration from the Actifio mounted disk back to the local disk. So now we are ready to complete the cutover, which is called the finalize migration step. This process backs up the final delta changes to the mounted database, takes it offline, and then brings up the local file version of the database and performs a final incremental restore of the delta changes, and then the database is placed online. So this job here is running through fairly quickly. Literally only takes about 1 minute and 22 seconds. So for a 1 terabyte database to be effectively moved from the Actifio mount back to the local disk drive, you can see it there now, has the same name, but the disks you'll see there are now sitting on the G and H target, which are local drives sitting on this SQL server. In addition to that, let's check that the data and modifications that we made exist in the database, and you can see there username 1 and 2 is John Battle and Kirk Ivory. In addition to that, we have cleaned up the mounted volumes and made it a clean SQL server. And thanks for your time today. That's Mount and Migrate in Actifio 10C.